Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, exactly as he did last year, just setting the pace up front and watching everybody else behind doing their own battling as Greg Moore now closes up behind Bobby Rahal, and an interesting mix of abilities and ages really here. You've got the 21-year-old Greg Moore in the car just behind the Miller Lite car of Bobby Rahal. Bobby now 44 years old, the veteran of the championship, but a 3 times champion and one of the most consistent drivers on the scene. He manages the team as well. Not only does he drive it very fast, this car, he also has to look after the way the whole team is operated and run. It's a very busy man, but he seems to do it very effectively.
Yeah, he has to pay the bills, so if he crashes a car, he's the one who has to take shoulder the blame and shoulder the financial burden. So it doesn't really come into play for Bobby Rahal. He is a racer in the classic breed, and doing a nice job here. He's been led by his young teammate, his protege there, Brian Herder, who's actually pulled away a little bit now. He certainly seems to have settled down a little bit. He's lost a little ground to Scott Pruitt.
Oh, we got problems with Michael Andretti. Yeah, Andretti in trouble early on, and Michael Andretti, who was in 4th position, has got a cut left rear. I wonder if that's contact with another car or with the wall. It's very difficult to tell at this stage.
Difficult to tell, as you said. He wasn't really anybody close behind him. Scott Pruitt was a few car lengths behind. He's got to limp all the way around this racetrack before he can make a pit stop and change that left rear. What damage will it do before he gets back to the pits, Ben?
Yes, that's the problem. The bodywork around that area will be demolished by that flailing rubber, as you can see. And even travelling slowly at that speed, it's just tearing out bits of the floor pan just behind the side pod. Andretti trying to get back to the pits, but the championship leader is in trouble here. There's no doubt about that. He's had 2 good races so far. The winner in Homestead, 3rd place in Surfers Paradise, by basically surviving the incidents that carried on there. But he is an early victim here at Long Beach, certainly of a good result. Meanwhile, Roberto Moreno has just gone past Jimmy Vasser, so Moreno moves up into 9th position now and goes chasing after Paul Tracy. So Vasser not as competitive as we might have expected. Right behind him, he's got Raul Boesel and Mark Blundell in that little group. It's very, very tight.
And look how Moreno has pulled away. Clearly a problem of some sort with Jimmy Vasser. There goes Raul Boesel round the outside, followed, as you say there, by most of the rest of the pack here. I don't know what the problem is with Jimmy Vasser. He started on different tyres to his teammate Alex Zanardi. Jimmy Vasser, like most of them, there he is, Lockie at the time. Most have a puncture, I would say, on the left rear here. There it is. You can see it's flat there. So he'll be limping around. Oh, obviously debris on the track, as we see in front of us. Michael Andretti finally limps into the pits.
They've actually put out the debris flag on the start-finish line to warn drivers, and that's obviously what's been the problem for Michael Andretti. And he comes into the pits. The Newman Haas crew go to work very quickly. Look at the state of that tyre. I mean, he's obviously had to drive around the whole lap on that, and that's the destruction that it causes to the Goodyear tyre when you try and survive a lap with a tear in it already. Jimmy Vasser into the pits there as well in the Ganassi team, and what a disappointment for last year's race winner here, and the champion is not enjoying the same run of luck as he had last year. There's no doubt about that. He lost out on a very good possible points finish in Australia in the latter stages when that incident with Maurizio Gugelmin cost him so much time. Here at Long Beach, he's in trouble already, and Vasser's defence of his championship is not looking very promising, I have to say, in this early part of the series.
Yeah, he's struggling to get out, touching it with it, get out onto the track ahead of the race leader, Gilles de Ferran. He'll hustle down the pits as fast as he can. We don't see there is Gugelmin, so Gugelmin's in 3rd place, so Jimmy Vasser has lost a lap, as did Michael Andretti, so bad luck there for Jimmy Vasser. That's awfully tough to make up on this sort of racetrack.
Yeah, so de Ferran still leads from Zanardi with Gugelmin in 3rd place, remember, and that's where Vasser's come out in that 3rd place battle. Scott Pruitt in 4th. Brian Herter is in 5th place ahead of Bobby Rahal in 6th position, and Greg Moore now in 7th place with the demise of Michael Andretti, although he will be back out on circuit again soon. He's really got some work to do from back there. The battle as Bobby Rahal tries to keep Greg Moore behind him in 6th position. Rahal 7th place for Moore, and already the problems of debris causing 2 of the favourites to run into trouble here. Michael Andretti and Jimmy Vasser, both now about a lap down effectively on the race leader, a minimum of a lap down, and the race leader is still Gilles de Ferran, who has an advantage of 3.3 seconds. Lapping in the mid-53 second bracket at the moment. His last lap was about 0.4 of a second faster than Alex Zanardi's last lap. So Gilles de Ferran really is going very quickly as we're on lap number 15 here.
Yeah, interesting that Goodyear tyres, of course, on the car number 5 is Gilles de Ferran. Firestone tyres on Alex Zanardi's car. And Zanardi, you know, he qualified on what's supposed to be the less durable of the 2 Firestone tyres. It's their primary tyre, their recommended tyre as they came here. But most people, most of the Firestone runners opted to use the option tyre, as they call it. Oh dear, is that Roberto Moreno?
It is. It's Roberto Moreno, and a left rear damage to his car as well. And what a shame for Moreno, the guy who's had such a big opportunity here to take over from Christian Fittipaldi after Christian suffered that broken leg in Australia last week. They brought in the experienced Roberto Moreno, a fellow Brazilian who's been scratching around the edges of this series for a couple of years now, and again, a bit like his Formula One hopes, never quite came as he wanted. But Roberto Moreno in trouble already, and that's a shame to see him out of the race. Gilles de Ferran, our leader. So Gilles de Ferran out in front with Zanardi in second, the full course yellow flag, and the car of Roberto Moreno being recovered from down that end. And what a shame for Roberto Moreno. I wonder if they're actually going to be able to get that car back to the pits. Of course, that's one of the things about this championship, Jeremy, which really is rather fun, is the fact that you're not out of the race necessarily in an incident like this. If you can get the car back, you can get back into it again. That's right.
They'll probably give him a tow back to the pits, or at least try and bump start the car. Maybe it's just stalled the engine. That left rear looks a bit dodgy, doesn't it? But if they can get him back in the race, they will. It's awfully difficult to make a lap back on a street course, much more difficult than on an oval, where there's obviously more opportunities to slipstream somebody and perhaps make a pass and even get back, past the race leader. But that's certainly a big blow to Roberto Moreno. He'd done a super job with that team, brand new to the team, brand new to the car. And it's a shame that he should be in trouble so early in the race.
Funny how it's the same thing has happened to both of the Swifts. They both had a left rear tyre cut. Now we know that there's debris out on circuit. That was confirmed by race control. Makes you wonder if there's not something out there almost, that where they're running wide out of a corner or something, maybe they're just catching the edge of a wall, or just something around a track that's maybe cutting these tyres.
Yeah, curious, because the Indy Lights race this morning, incidentally won by another Brazilian driver, Helio Castro Neves from Cristiano de Mata, his countryman. No problems for tyres in that race. They all ran on Firestone tyres in the Indy Lights series. And, curious, just those few drivers, maybe it's easy to clip a wall here and make a mistake. So Gilles de Ferran out here and see if he can keep it trouble-free.
Welcome back to Long Beach Live, riding with Gilles de Ferran, the race leader here, behind the pace car at the moment after the accident to Roberto Moreno, that cut left rear tyre. We've seen 3 cars in similar circumstances now. Michael Andretti, Jimmy Vasser, and now Roberto Moreno, all in trouble with a cut left rear tyre. De Ferran leads with Zanardi following him round behind the pace car, second place, Gugelmin third, Pruitt in 4th place, then Brian Herter ahead of teammate Bobby Rahal, 5th and 6th. And Roberto Moreno has joined the back of the queue now. He's had a replacement rear tyre fitted, but he is some 3 laps down now, so he's got a lot of work to do from back there. It's going to be a tough afternoon for him, making his debut for the Newman-Haas team. Behind Rahal, we've still got Greg Moore 7th, Paul Tracy 8th, Raul Boesel in 9th, and Mark Blundell has just got into the top 10 now with the various problems for some of the other front runners. He's in 10th place. Parker Johnston is 11th, Alonso Jr. 12th. He started down at 15th place, remember, the 6 times winner here. So he's made a little bit of progress, but not a great deal. And in fact, is 1 away behind the race leader. Franchitti 13th, Sales 14th, Ribeiro 15th, Fernandez in 16th position, then Patrick Carpentier 17th, Michel Jourdain in 18th, Juan Fangio and PJ Jones behind him, Paul Jasper 21st, Jimmy Vasser rejoined now with that cut rear tyre having been replaced, he's 22nd, and then Max Papis, Matsushita, Andretti, Moreno and Hearn behind. But let's take a little bit more of a look at Gilles de Ferran. Gilles de Ferran, the race leader, the Brazilian, who now has been competing for a couple of seasons in the championship, and a race winner before this season as well. He's had a pretty good time. He's won 2 occasions on the past. He's had a couple of pole positions in the past as well. This is his 35th IndyCar race, And this season, his first season with the Walker Racing team, run by Derek Walker, the Scotsman, who has been involved in this championship for many years now. Jeremy was involved with Penske originally.
Yeah, started out in Formula One really many years ago with the Brabham team, and moved across to Penske, moved across here with the Penske team, became general manager of that team before he left in '89 to run the new Porsche program. He was there for a couple of years, and then once that faded away, he started up his own team, gradually building it up. This year, I think he thinks he has the best of everything. He has good engines with Honda, he has great tyres from Goodyear, Reynard chassis, and a very promising young driver with Gilles de Ferro.
So he leads this race behind the pace car at the moment. We've completed 21 of 105 laps. The signal of 1 lap to go. We've got a couple of cars coming into the pit lane as we see Derek Walker there down in the pits. We've got one of the Toyota cars. We've got Andretti back in the pits as well. Michael Andretti's returned to the pit lane. They've put some fuel aboard his car and he's now coming back out again. Now that's interesting. An interesting decision there. Perhaps the only opportunity for them to really make up some ground there.
Yeah, he's well back in the pack. He's also a lap down, so he's actually in 24th position as he came into the pits. What he's hoping now, at least he has 20 laps more fuel on board than the other guys. So if the cars fall his way, if there's another caution, everybody else have to come into the pits, just maybe he'll be able to get his lap back by not having to make a pit stop at that stage. That's the strategy from Lee White there, the team manager of Newman Haas Racing, and it's worth a try. At this stage in the game, all is lost really. He's in a hopeless position down there, so anything he can try to do, he will.
Championship is important as well. He leads the series, and I know it's very early stages, but what he's got to work on now with him being so far down the field is just looking to scoring some points. And of course, don't forget that you score points right down to 12th place in this championship, so there's still a chance. We're getting ready for the green to come back out once more as Gilles de Ferran leads the cars out of the final hairpin. Green flag. We get the restart underway on lap number 23, and immediately he pulls away from Zanardi Gugelmin with Vasser there, but remember he's a lap down, so Jimmy Vasser is not where he seems to be. 4th place is in fact the yellow and red car of Scott Pruitt, and then the two Team Rahal cars, Brian Herter just locking that right front a little bit as he protects his position from his team boss Bobby Rahal, and behind them we've got Greg Moore and Paul Tracy, the two Canadians doing battle. Now Jeremy, this could be quite entertaining for a few laps.
Yeah, there's certainly some friendly rivalry between these two, and one's from the west coast of Canada, that's Greg Moore, one from the east coast is Paul Tracy from Toronto in Canada, though he actually now lives in Arizona. And there's Scott Pruitt.
Just getting past Vassel. Vassel, remember, is a lap down, so no actual change of position there. Oh, we've got more problems. That's Greg Moore. So Greg Moore's gone straight down the escape road. Now, what were we saying about the battle with him and Paul Tracy? It's turn 6 he's gone off at, and he's waving for the marshals to come and give him a hand to get him restarted in this race. But Greg Moore is an early victim as well. That's a surprise because he's been putting in some really consistent finishes this year, and that's disappointing. First and third place men in the championship then in trouble as Brian Herter looks up again. He seems to have a little bit of a problem at the moment in locking those front brakes.
Yeah, interesting to me that in the early part of the race he seemed to be struggling a little bit in the early laps, then seemed to get into his stride. I wonder whether it just takes a few laps for the tyres to come in on Brian's car, and certainly not quite enough grip there under braking, and he locks them up. Hopefully he hasn't flat spotted those tyres too badly, and he'll be able to continue in 5th position.
Good point, of course, when they're behind the pace car, the tyre temperature cools off. It's a beautiful warm day here, but even so, in terms of racing temperature, they cool off quite a lot when they're behind the pace car. In the early laps after the pace car period, the drivers have got to be very careful to build that tyre temperature back up. That will give them more grip, but while they're building it up, of course, it's very easy to make a little mistake and go off, perhaps like that with Brian Herter just locking up. Let's see what happens this time at the end of this straight. This was where Brian was locking up. I don't know if we'll get a view from on board Bobby Rahal's car. Bobby just has a little look down the inside, not really a proper look to overtake, but just moving around in the mirrors of Herter's car, perhaps just watching to see how that other car is behaving at the moment. But it's good to see both cars much more on the pace here this weekend in race conditions than they have been in the last two.
Yeah, and behind the two Rahal cars, there is Brian Herter. There, just out of the picture, was Bobby Rahal behind him. They are 5th and 6th. Right behind them now, we can see Raoul Boesel, who's moved up several positions in actual fact. He got past Paul Tracy last time around. Then we see Greg Moore's car still stopped at turn 6. And so a good run here by Raoul Boesel. He didn't get the most out of the car in qualifying, I think. But in this morning's warm-up session, he was second fastest, I think. Third fastest, I guess. Quickest was Gilles de Ferran, second was Pruitt. it, and third was Raoul Boisel. So beginning to make his move this afternoon, Raoul Boisel, good run for him.
I don't know what happened to Paul Tracy, but it must have involved that incident with Greg Moore, because Paul is down in 9th position now behind Mark Blundell as well, so there must have been some sort of incident. There's Greg Moore, he's still sitting there. There doesn't seem to be an awful lot of assistance for Greg Moore. He's sitting there with the car looking basically straight, still in the car, but nobody wants to give him a push to get back into the